In all walks of life, there are few things more inspiring than a real-life rags to riches story. We all love the tales of Francis Ngannou and Charles Oliveira, who came from extreme poverty to become superstars in the game. But what if I told you we have a fighter in the UFC with generational wealth, who came into the game not just to have fun, but to be the best in his division? A millionaire boy who chose to ditch the easy life for the hardest sport on the planet. But very rarely do we see him showboating his crazy rich background. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a real-life Bruce Wayne, or some might say an Armenian Bruce Wayne, in the #1 ranked contender in the lightweight division, Arman Tsarukyan.
What are your superpowers again? I'm rich.
He is the enigma in the world of MMA. So let's talk about Mr. Tsarukyan and get to know him in depth, and what the future might hold for him. A fighter of Armenian origin, born in Georgia, but grew up in Russia, and he fights predominantly in America. Sounds strange, right? Arman is a global citizen after all. Arman's family moved to Russia when he was just a toddler. His dad, Ngannou Tsarukyan, is a successful businessman in the construction industry.
I was born in Georgia. It's like very small village, about like 100 houses. You know, like my father moved to Russia to make money. I have been living in Russia like about 20 years. It's like it's my country almost, yeah, for sure I'm Armenian.
The 28-year-old lightweight contender has loads of inherited wealth, but instead of chilling on the beaches of the Caribbean, he chose to enter the cage and have cage fighting as his profession. When you have money, you know what happens. Let me just quote Dana White on this.
Money changes everything with a lot of people. Conor might never fight again. Guy's got $100 million.
The most striking example of this was Conor McGregor, who arguably wasted most of his fighting career with the onset of money. But while McGregor was vacationing in the Bahamas or on the coasts of the Canary Islands, our guy Arman knew this wouldn't help him. This doesn't mean he can't do it. He grew up surrounded by the trappings of luxury, yet he chose to live a life with discipline and hard work, driven by his ambition to become the best in his weight class. That's where the parallels to Bruce Wayne come from. Batman's whole thing was about using his wealth and resources for something bigger, fighting crime, protecting the innocent, and the city of Gotham. Arman's doing the same in his way, fighting in the cage and staying in peak shape all the time. Let me give you an example. Next week at International Fight Week, the UFC card is headlined by Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira, and guess who's the backup for the fight? It's our protagonist, Arman Tsarukyan. Always ready to jump in, fight the best, and prove that he can beat all of them. By the way, he's defeated one of the challengers in this fight. Last April, he defeated Charles Oliveira in a very closely contested bout.
For the winner, by split decision, Arman Tsarukyan!
He's young, hungry, and ain't afraid to stir the pot. But can he back it up with gold around his waist? We'll get to that later. Now, some folks might say Arman's rich family means he's got it easier. And yeah, he has a huge advantage to train without worrying about rent or sponsors. He's so rich that when a reporter asked him what he'd be doing if he wasn't fighting, he gave an honest reply. Hanging out on my island drinking. That's some Tony Stark level flexing right there. But on the flip side, money can't buy heart or skill. And Tsarukyan is putting in work. That 22-3 record is possible due to his blood, sweat, and tears in the cage. It hasn't been handed to him on a silver platter, and this adds a whole new layer to his story. This also has a lot to do with the way he's been raised. Raised in the sporting culture of Russia, where discipline and hard work are taught from the beginning to all the athletes. No showboating, no shenanigans, but a simple show of your skill set, and you execute the same on the stage. This is what is expected from any athlete from that part of the world, right from the boxing greats like the Klitschko brothers to Khabib and his Dagestani wrestling empire. People from that neck of the woods are mostly interested in watching the craft with no frills, while the West is full of tricks to amaze the audience and has a liking for the extraordinary. Recently on a podcast, he was seen wearing an Audemars Piguet watch while he came out on an $800,000 Ferrari that Arman calls Arman's Blue. This is the millionaire life I'm talking about, but he rarely showboats all of this. Enough talk of his wealth though, let's talk about other things related to Arman. At first glance, it might look like he's a practitioner of Islam, since most of his peers and coaches in the past have been Muslim. But he is an Armenian Christian by faith, Listen to this hilarious story.
И там Магомед тренеру говорит, когда Армана видишь, всегда ему говорю салам алейкум. И мне, и тренер всегда мне салам алейкум, я говорю алейкум салам, и он думает, что я тоже мусульманин. И он, тренер, иншаллах, сейчас там, тренер, он все знает. Иншаллах, номер один, иншаллах, номер один, иншаллах, номер один. И пошел где-то года 2. И это, я говорю, тренер, говорю, я говорю, не мусульманин. Да. И он говорит, как не мусульманин? А почему Мага всегда говорил, что это? Я говорю, да он специально подкалывает меня.
Imagine pranking your coach for 2 years straight. While Dagestan's MMA boom is well established, Armenia has to go a long way before reaching those kind of levels of domination in mixed martial arts. Combat sports have been a big part of the sporting culture in Armenia, but the recent success of stars like Arman is sparking an explosion of interest in MMA. Tsarukyan has become a star in his home country of Armenia. Earlier, it was the kickboxers like Marek Grigorian and Giorgio Petrosian who stole most of the headlines, but that isn't the case anymore. Alongside Arman, we have plenty of contenders in the UFC. Now onto some serious stuff. Tsarukyan holds a 22-3 pro record in his 25 fights. Look at his style: super technical wrestling, slick submissions, and fast-paced striking. Those who associate him with only wrestling should look at his knockout of Beneil Dariush. End of debate. Remember, he became an overnight sensation when he gave Islam the toughest fight of his career till today. That was on his UFC debut, and that too on very short notice. Since then, he's gone 9-1 in the UFC. The next fight for the 28-year-old is yet to be known, but he'll be the official backup to the lightweight title fight at UFC 317. He was supposed to fight for the title, but an unfortunate back injury led to him pulling out of it. I'm sure we will see him there soon. Everybody knows that the UFC lightweight division is a minefield. Tsarukyan sitting as the #1 contender, one spectacular performance and a title shot is guaranteed. And if he wins the belt, man, that's a storybook moment. The billionaire kid who decided to fight the best and became the best. We all know he has the tools to get the job done, but will he succeed? That is a big if. But this is no mathematical equation. It's a sport that has a quirky knack for producing bizarre outcomes. As for Arman, he puts his success down to pure discipline and commitment. In a recent podcast, Tsarukyan recalled a young fighter listing all the expensive training camps he would join if he had the financial freedom of the Armenian. He simply told him, if you had as much money as I have, you would never come to the gym. That's nothing but the plain truth. Put yourself in his position. Anyone with that wealth would have been sipping drinks on a yacht, visiting fancy parties, or flexing family's wealth in any way possible. Most of the MMA coaches and